A very good day to all. So in this lecture video, we'll be discussing about welding process. So in the previous videos, we have discussed about the casting process. So now we'll move on to the joining process. So joining process is nothing but in metals, it is welding. So welding is a process of joining two materials together, either by heat or by friction. So basically what happens is that two metals will be diffused together. So there may be melting. So when melting occurs, it's called as fusion welding process. So there is no melting occurring, then it is non-fusion based welding process or solid state welding process. So examples of fusion welding process. So commonly used arc welding, gas welding. Solid state welding process examples are brazing, soldering, friction welding. So those can be said. So in today's topic particularly, we'll be discussing about manual metal arc welding process. So manual metal arc welding process is also called as shielded metal arc welding process. The basic process here is that electricity is used as a source of power, and it is a fusion based welding process. So since we are saying it's a fusion based welding process, here heat is employed basically to melt two metal pieces locally so that they can be joined together. So here the heat plays a major role, and in order to generate the heat, we are using electricity. So the basic setup we can see here. So we have all seen this in our local shops, and also in your first year welding, in your workshop practices lab, you would have seen this welding process, and you have done this welding process. So it's a simple procedure here. So the main parts here are, first thing will be a generator. So based on the process, whether it's an AC or a DC welding process, generator will be used, power source, and then there will be the electrode holder. From the power source, the current will be traveling to the electrode holder, and from the electrode holder, it will go to the electrode, and the workpiece will be attached to the negative pole, and there will be a grounded pole. So what happens here is that when you touch the electrode with the metal piece, the circuit is completed. So this, when you touch the electrode with the workpiece, what happens is that the circuit is completed and current flow occurs. So there will be no welding taking place. You would have noticed that. But when the electrode and the workpiece are kept at a small gap, say 0.1 millimeter. So when a small gap like that is maintained, what happens is that the electrons try to move towards the workpiece, but they cannot move because of the air gap. So what happens there is that when the electrons have to pass through the air, they generate tremendous amount of heat. So plasma is created. So air will be existing in a plasma state. So in that state, ionic state, you can call it as an ionic state. In such state, what happens is that huge amount of heat is generated locally. So it occurs in a local point, and also huge amount of light is emitted. So as you see in the welding process, the light occurs because of this, because the air molecules surrounding the arc gets superheated to a plasma state. So that liberates such high amount of light and heat. So that heat, what it does is that it melts the workpiece, both workpiece which you have to weld, and also the electrode. So this is a, here electrode is a consumable electrode. So consumable electrode means electrode will be used up during the welding process. So there are other welding processes where non-consumable electrodes are used, such as tungsten inert gas welding. We'll be seeing those in the subsequent lectures. So this particular welding process is a consumable electrode welding process. So what happens is that when two workpieces are melted together, they basically join together, and the electrode acts as a filler material. So what is filler material is that it fills the gap between the two workpieces. So once the process takes place, solidification occurs. After welding process, solidification occurs. So that's basically the arc welding process. There are much more parameters to be discussed in this arc welding process, which we'll discuss in the subsequent lectures. So just to give you a quick recap, today we have discussed about the arc welding process or shielded metal arc welding process. So here, another point which I would like to add is the shielded metal arc welding process. So what is shield there is that if you can see the image to your right, there is a blue color envelope surrounding the welding zone. So that is nothing but it is a shield of gas formed. So you would have seen the electrode. Electrode will be covered with a white powdery substance. So that is called as a flux. So flux, what happens is that during the welding process, it evaporates. Flux is nothing but calcium carbonate. It evaporates and liberates carbon dioxide. So that carbon dioxide surrounds the welding zone and it prevents the entry of oxygen into the welding zone. So what it does is that it prevents oxidation. So hence the name shielded metal arc welding process. Here, inert gas shielding is provided. So hence it is called a shielded metal arc welding process. So here, to give you a quick recap, the current generated from the electrode passes to the workpiece holder and then to the electrode. And the workpiece, when it is kept at a gap, when the electrode and the workpiece is maintained at a gap, electric arc is generated. So that arc liberates light and heat. So that heat is used to melt the two workpiece and join it together. So that's the basic welding process. I hope you understood today's lecture. We'll meet in another video. Thank you.